Hey guys, today I'm going to do a quick video on your most important planet in your chart. Now, this is no small thing if you're into astrology. A lot of times people downplay planets like Jupiter or Saturn, thinking that they're slower moving, or like Mercury or things like that. Everybody's into Venus, you know? She's like the star. She's literally called the star. She's like this bright, shiny star in the sky. But you shouldn't downplay those planets necessarily because they may be the most important ones for you. Now, I will share my personal story where I could not understand why I was like so emotionally intense because I'm a Sagittarius rising and sun and Mercury. And it's like, why am I not more positive? Why am I not more optimistic? Well, when I finally learned how to read my chart, I found out that my most important planet was Jupiter, and that Jupiter happened to be in Scorpio in my 12th house. And that tells me about my whole entire chart. And it explains why I'm so intense emotionally, also so driven, and am always like challenging myself, and like pick up on a lot of things from other people. So I'm making this video because I don't want it to happen to you where you downplay like the most important planet in your chart. If you're learning about your chart or how to read for other people, I want you to know what the most important planet is. And so the most important planet is what's called a chart ruler. And I'm gonna go through the chart ruler for every zodiac sign so that you can understand it. And the long story short is basically the chart ruler is the planet that rules your rising sign. So remember when I made that video on your rising sign, I'll link it up here. Remember when I said that's your most important sign? It is. You're going to look at that sign and you're going to look at the planet that rules that rising sign. And that's going to give you a snapshot of your whole entire chart, which means your whole entire life, everything. It's going to give you a short story on what you can expect. Okay, we're just going to start demonstrating in the chart, and we're going to start with Aries Rising. So if you're an Aries Rising, the most important planet in your chart is Mars. So Mars is in Aries in its own domicile right here. So if you had it in your first house, you'd probably be very self-directed. But you're going to look to where Mars is in your chart, and you're going to look to what house it is in your chart. So the house in the chart is going to tell you the main focus of your entire life. And it's going to tell you the flavor of Aries rising that you are. So make sure to pay attention to that planet, what sign it is, what house it's in, and what planets are aspecting it. And that will tell you basically the snapshot of your entire life. Okay, if you are a Taurus rising, you want to look to Venus in the chart. So if you love Venus, you're all about the Venus sign, no problem. So Venus is your chart ruler, this lady figure here, if you're a Taurus rising. So to get info about your entire chart, you are going to look at where Venus is, what house it's in, and what sign it is in, as well as other planets aspecting it. And that's going to tell you about your entire life and your entire chart. And you can also consult an astrologer like myself or another astrologer to let you know what that chart ruler is going to tell you about everything that's going to happen to you. Okay, if you are a Gemini rising, your chart ruler is Mercury with the little wings on the head here. You are going to look at where Mercury is, what sign it is, what house it's in, and what planets are aspecting it. And that will give you a snapshot of your entire chart and basically your entire life. You can always consult an astrologer like myself or other astrologer to give you a reading to let you know what that chart ruler is going to tell you. Okay, if you are a Cancer rising, this is the rising sign right here, Cancer rising, you are ruled by the moon. So when you look at your chart, look to where the moon is, look at what house it's in, what the topic of that house is, and what sign the moon is in and any planets aspecting that. That's going to tell you about your entire chart, your entire life, your feel for you, who you are, how your life is going. You can always, again, consult an astrologer like myself or another astrologer to tell you what your chart ruler is and like what that means like for your entire life. If you are a Leo rising, your chart ruler is going to be the sun. So to figure out your entire chart, the focus of like who you are and like basically your entire life, look to where the sun is. Look at what sign it's in. Look at what house it's in and the topics related to that house, and look at any planets aspecting the sun. It's going to tell you about your entire chart. It's going to tell you about you. It's going to tell you about your entire life. And if you want to know more about it, you can consult an astrologer like myself to give you a reading, or another astrologer, and they can give you a lot of info about your entire life and what this chart ruler means for you. Okay. If you are a Virgo rising, you're gonna look to Mercury. Mercury is your chart ruler if you are a Virgo rising. So it's like a little winged guy here. So you are going to look at Mercury. You're going to look to what house Mercury is in, the topics related to that. You're going to look at the sign Mercury is in, and you're going to look at any planets making aspects to Mercury. Now, you can always go to an astrologer, get a reading from me or from another astrologer to let you know about this chart ruler. And that's going to tell you about your entire chart, your entire life, and even like your personality, who you are. It basically tells you everything. Like this chart ruler is a snapshot for like everything in your chart. All right, if you are a Libra rising, you're going to look at that popular planet Venus, because your chart ruler is Venus. This little like circle with the, looks like it's supposed to be a lady on the bottom, like lady parts on the bottom. So if you're a Libra rising, look to where Venus is in your chart. Look to the house it's in, the topics related to that house. And look at what sign Venus is in. Look at what planets are aspecting it. Now, you can always get a reading from an astrologer like myself or another astrologer to let you know about your chart ruler and what that means for your entire life. It's a snapshot of your entire life. And like I could tell you about that, or any other astrologer as well. All right, so if you are a Scorpio rising, I'm going to bring up some controversies. So I use traditional rulers. I think they are way more accurate and they tell you a lot. These super like outer planets that you can't see with telescopes, they move so slowly. I only use them for like more like mundane transits. But if you don't know about that, don't worry. If you were a Scorpio rising, your chart ruler is going to be Mars. And so you are going to look to where Mars is in your chart. You're going to look to what house it's in. You're going to look at what sign Mars is in, and you're going to look at any aspects to Mars. And that's going to tell you about your entire chart and, you know, give you the dish on what's going to happen in your entire life. And that's also something, if you book a reading with me, I can tell you all about your chart ruler, your entire life. You could also, you know, have another astrologer do a reading for you. They'll tell you about your chart ruler as well, because it's the most important planet for you. All right, for Sagittarius rising, if you're a Sagittarius rising, Jupiter is your most important planet. Don't let anybody tell you that's just like a general planet, like mundane or outer planet. It is not. That Jupiter is so important for you. Like watch the videos on Jupiter, watch like my mythology video, like get to know Jupiter and what Jupiter means. I am serious, because, and also what Sagittarius means, because Jupiter is your most important planet. So you're going to look to Jupiter. You're going to look to what house it's in, what topics are related to it. You're going to look at what sign Jupiter's in, and you're going to look at any planets that make an aspect to Jupiter. It's going to tell you about your entire life, your entire chart. Now, this is also something you can get a reading with me, and I could let you know about your chart ruler, as well as like basically anything else you want to know. Or another astrologer can give a reading and tell you what your chart ruler means and what like your entire life is going to be focused on. Okay, so if you are a Capricorn rising, your chart ruler is going to be Saturn. Again, don't let anybody tell you that Saturn is an outer planet. It doesn't mean anything for you. If you are a Capricorn rising, this Saturn planet right here that I'm circling with my little like cross here, is the most important planet for you. Saturn is your chart ruler if you're a Capricorn rising. Get to know it. Look at what house it's in, what topics are like that house relates to. Look at what sign Saturn's in. Look at any planets aspecting Saturn, and that's going to tell you about your whole chart, your whole entire life. Now, this is something that I could do for you. If you book a reading with me, I would tell you all about your chart ruler, what it means, or you could book with a reading with another astrologer. They can tell you about your chart ruler as well. It is the most important thing in your chart. All right, if you are an Aquarius rising, your most important planet, your chart ruler, is going to be Saturn. So again, don't let people tell you Saturn's just this general planet that relates to everybody. If it's your chart ruler, it is your most important planet. So pay attention to where Saturn is. Pay attention to the house it's in, the topics that relate to that house. Look at what sign Saturn's in. Look at any planets relating to Saturn. And that will tell you about your whole life, your whole entire chart. And this is something that I could tell you all about in detail personally for you if you book a reading with me, or if you book with another astrologer. They can tell you about your chart ruler as well, and basically tell you anything you need to know about what's happening in your life and you, like who you are. Oh, and yes, I did just bring up a point of controversy. I use traditional rulers. I'm a traditional astrologer. I think they are going to be way more accurate. Any predictive technique that I'm going to use is going to use a traditional ruler for Aquarius. The traditional ruler for Aquarius is Saturn. It's not like modern astrology uses Uranus. I don't think that works, so I don't use it. Like if you're hardcore about that, then look to a modern astrologer. Okay, if you are a Pisces rising, your most important planet, your chart ruler, is going to be Jupiter. You're going to look to Jupiter. Now, yes, I am bringing up a point of controversy. Modern astrologers use a different chart ruler. I am a traditional chart ruler. I'm a traditional astrologer. I'm a Hellenistic astrologer. And I believe like the ruler I use is way more accurate. It's going to tell you more. Every predictive technique that I use, that they are super awesome and super good at predicting things, are going to use traditional rulers. And like, so modern astrologers will use Neptune. I don't think that works. And if you're like hardcore about like Neptune being the chart ruler, you need to go to a modern astrologer, because I do believe Pisces is so Jupiter ruled. And so anyway, long story short, if you're a Pisces rising, there's some controversy, but your chart ruler, according to myself, is going to be Jupiter. So you're going to look to Jupiter. Jupiter is not some general outer planet. If you are Pisces rising, that Jupiter is going to tell you everything you need to know about yourself and your chart and what's going to happen. So if you're a Pisces rising, you're going to look to where Jupiter is in your chart. You're going to look to what house it rules and the topics related to that house. You're going to look to what sign Jupiter's in, and you're going to look to any planets aspecting Jupiter. That's going to tell you about your whole entire life. Your whole entire chart is going to help with any predictive techniques that you want to incorporate. A lot of those really awesome predictive techniques like perfections and solar returns, they started back in the day, and traditional astrologers do pretty well with predictive techniques. So if you want like an astrologer to read for you, I could do this. If you book a reading with me, I can tell you all about your chart ruler and what it means for your entire life, or you could book with another astrologer as well, and they can tell you about your chart ruler because it's the most important planet in your chart. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video on your chart rulers. Please leave any comments or questions below, and I'd be happy to answer them, and I will see you in the next video.